Max Verstappen did not finish fourth in Barcelona because Red Bull were unlucky. He finished fourth because Red Bull are running out of answers. 3 retirements earlier in the season. Poor starts caused by power delivery problems. Overheating tires. Balance issues. Reliability fears. Only 43 points after 7 races. And now, a Barcelona race where Ferrari, Mercedes, and McLaren all finished ahead of him. That is not a bad weekend. That is a crisis. Because Hamilton just won for Ferrari. Russell beat him in the Mercedes. Norris put McLaren on the podium. And Verstappen, the 4-time world champion, was left behind in a car that still cannot give him what he needs. Red Bull promised fixes after Monaco. Barcelona was supposed to prove they worked. It proved the opposite. Now Verstappen needs an emergency solution, because if Red Bull cannot fix this car fast, the biggest question in Formula 1 will not be how many races they can still save. It will be how long Verstappen is willing to wait. Subscribe to the channel. Barcelona was supposed to be Red Bull's proof of life. Not a victory parade. Not a return to domination. Just proof that the crisis was starting to move in the right direction. After the retirements, after the power delivery complaints, after the difficult starts, after the tire overheating, after the balance problems, after the Monaco disappointment, Red Bull needed one clean weekend where Verstappen could feel the car again. They needed a race where the team could point to real progress and say, this is the beginning of the recovery. But Barcelona gave them something colder. It gave them a finish, but not a fight. And for Verstappen, that may be more frustrating than a retirement. Because when the car breaks, the story is obvious. Something failed. The race is gone. The team investigates. The driver moves on, angry, but at least the explanation is clear. But when the car finishes fourth, behind Ferrari, Mercedes, and McLaren, with no real chance to win, the message is harder to escape. This is the level. That is what makes Barcelona so dangerous for Red Bull. Verstappen was not taken out by chaos. He was not robbed by a bizarre strategy. He was not leading comfortably before disaster struck. He was simply not in the fight that mattered most. Hamilton won in the Ferrari. Russell finished ahead in the Mercedes. Norris put McLaren on the podium. And Verstappen, the driver who once made Red Bull feel untouchable, was left behind them all. That order says more than any excuse. Because Red Bull are no longer chasing one team. They are chasing several. Ferrari have momentum. Mercedes still have speed. McLaren are strong enough to punish mistakes. And Red Bull, the team that used to set the standard, are now trying to understand why the car cannot give Verstappen the platform he needs. That is the real crisis. Not one bad result. A car that keeps limiting the best driver in the team. The Red Bull 22 car has shown flashes, but flashes are not enough in a championship fight. A good qualifying sector does not win a Grand Prix. A promising practice run does not fix a weak race start. One improvement in one corner does not solve tire overheating across a full stint. Formula 1 reveals the full truth over distance. Heavy fuel, hot tires, traffic, changing grip, energy deployment, race pressure, repeated braking zones. Long corners that punish balance. Long straights that punish weak power delivery. Barcelona had all of it. And that is why the race mattered. This circuit does not allow a team to hide behind one strength. If the car is unstable, the driver feels it. If the tires overheat, the lap time falls away. If the hybrid system does not deliver power cleanly, the driver loses time at the worst moments. If the car cannot treat its tires gently through high-speed sections, the race becomes survival instead of attack. That is exactly the problem Red Bull had been carrying all season. Poor starts were not new. Verstappen had already complained earlier in the year that he had no power after a bad launch. Energy deployment issues were not new. He had already dealt with boost and electrical delivery problems in previous races. Reliability fears were not new. Australia, China, and Monaco had already damaged the season before Barcelona even began. So when Red Bull arrived in Spain, they were not looking for a normal result. They were looking for proof that the repeated issues were finally being contained. Instead, Barcelona showed the opposite. The car could finish, yes, but it could not threaten the win. And that is not enough for Verstappen. This is the part that makes his frustration different from normal driver anger. Verstappen is not angry because he expects every race to be easy. He knows Formula 1 changes. He knows regulations shift the order. He knows rivals improve. He knows even great teams suffer. But what he will not accept is feeling that the team does not have a clear answer. A champion can live with difficulty if the direction is obvious. He can suffer through one bad month if the recovery is real. He can lose a race if the car is improving underneath him. But if the same weaknesses keep returning, the patience starts to disappear. That is what Barcelona threatened. The same themes came back again. Not enough consistent pace. Not enough confidence in the car. Not enough control over tires. Not enough strength at the start. Not enough reliability history to feel calm. Not enough to fight Hamilton, Russell, and Norris. And when the same problems follow a team from race to race, they stop looking like problems. They start looking like identity. That is the fear inside Red Bull right now. What if this is not just a car with issues? What if this is what the current Red Bull is? A car that can score, but not dominate. A car that can survive, but not attack. A car that can sometimes show speed, but not in the complete, ruthless way Verstappen needs. That question is terrifying because it reaches beyond Barcelona. It reaches into the whole 2026 project. The new hybrid regulations change the demands on every team. Electrical energy now plays a much bigger role. Battery cooling, energy recovery, deployment timing, and power unit integration matter more than ever. In simple language, the car has to manage when it stores energy, when it releases it, how it stays cool, and how smoothly it gives the driver power. If that system is not right, the driver feels it everywhere. At the start, when the launch is weak. On corner exit, when the power does not arrive smoothly. On the straight, when deployment fades. In a battle, when the car does not respond at the exact moment the driver needs it. That is why Verstappen's earlier radio frustrations mattered so much. When a driver says the boost pattern is wrong, or complains that deployment has failed again, he is not just describing discomfort. He is describing a lack of trust. And trust is what makes Verstappen dangerous. Give him a car he trusts, and he can live on the limit like it belongs to him. Take that trust away, and even Verstappen becomes trapped inside the weaknesses of the machine. Barcelona looked like that kind of trap. He was there, but he was not released. He finished, but he did not threaten. He scored, but he did not scare anyone. For Red Bull, that is humiliating in a quiet way. Because the team's dominance was built on fear. Rivals feared Verstappen's pace. They feared Red Bull's race speed. They feared the strategy flexibility. They feared the way he could appear in the mirrors and make every defense feel temporary. In Barcelona, that fear was missing. Hamilton did not look like he was running from Red Bull. Russell did not look like he was being hunted by Verstappen. Norris did not look like a driver waiting for the inevitable Red Bull attack. They all finished ahead. That changes the psychological order of the grid. Once rivals stop fearing you, they become braver. They defend more aggressively. They choose strategies without worrying that Verstappen will destroy them later. They see Red Bull as a team to beat, not a team to survive. That is a major shift. And it is happening while Verstappen's own patience is becoming one of the biggest stories in the paddock. Before Barcelona, reports described an emergency meeting between Verstappen and senior Red Bull ownership figures in Milton Keynes. Verstappen refused to confirm details when asked, saying conversations happen inside the team all the time. That was the kind of answer a driver gives when he wants to protect the room, not feed the outside noise. But the noise is there for a reason. A meeting like that becomes believable when the results make it believable. And the results are brutal. 43 points through 7 races for Verstappen. Red Bull fourth in the Constructors' Championship with 69 points. 3 retirements already damaging the season. A Barcelona finish that still left them behind Ferrari, Mercedes, and McLaren. This is not the standard of a team controlling Formula One. This is the record of a team trying to stop a slide. And Verstappen knows the difference. That is why the emergency fix is not just about one upgrade package. It is about restoring the relationship between driver and team. Red Bull need to show him that the problems are being attacked at the root, not covered with small changes that only work for one weekend. They need a car that launches properly. A car that manages energy cleanly. A car that does not overheat its tires when the race gets hard. A car with balance he can lean on. A car reliable enough that he does not start every weekend wondering what will fail next. Because without that, every promise sounds weaker. And Verstappen has heard enough promises. After Monaco, Red Bull suggested they had identified an issue and were working toward a fix. Barcelona was supposed to be the place where that message became visible. Instead, the race became another reminder that identifying a problem is not the same as solving it. That is the painful truth. Formula One does not reward teams for knowing what is wrong. It rewards teams for fixing it before the rivals move further ahead. Ferrari moved ahead. Mercedes stayed ahead. McLaren stayed ahead. Red Bull were left explaining again. And explanations are dangerous when a champion wants action. This is why Barcelona felt like a turning point even without a dramatic crash or retirement. It showed that Red Bull's crisis is no longer only mechanical. It is competitive. It is emotional. It is political. Competitive, because the car is not fast enough over a race. Emotional, because Verstappen's frustration is becoming harder to hide. Political, because reports about his future now have fuel. And once those three problems connect, a team can lose control quickly. Red Bull still have time to respond. They still have elite people. They still have Verstappen. They still have the ability to develop. But Barcelona made one thing clear. They cannot ask Verstappen to wait forever. Every race without a real fix weakens the argument that this is temporary. Every weekend where Ferrari, Mercedes, and McLaren finish ahead makes the project look less convincing. Every repeated complaint about starts, deployment, tires, or balance makes the crisis feel deeper. And the next question becomes unavoidable. What exactly can Red Bull fix quickly? That is the problem. The issues are connected. If they chase more cooling, they may lose aerodynamic performance. If they chase more power delivery, they may hurt reliability. If they chase tire protection, they may lose sharpness. If they chase balance for qualifying, they may suffer in the race. There is no single button to press. That is why Verstappen's demand feels so urgent. He does not need one small improvement. He needs Red Bull to make the whole car make sense again. Because a car that only works in pieces does not win championships. A car that only looks good in short runs does not beat Ferrari, Mercedes, and McLaren. A car that only survives when it is not pushed does not give Verstappen what he needs. Barcelona proved the gap is not imaginary. It is real. And the most dangerous part for Red Bull is that everyone saw it. But the deeper problem for Red Bull is that Barcelona did not reveal one weakness. It revealed a chain. And when problems start connecting inside a Formula One car, they become far harder to fix than one broken part. A poor start is not only a poor start. It can put Verstappen into traffic. Traffic heats the tires. Hot tires reduce grip. Less grip makes the balance feel worse. A worse balance forces the driver to manage instead of attack. Managing costs lap time. Lost lap time ruins strategy. And suddenly, one weakness at the launch has damaged the entire race. That is the kind of spiral Red Bull have been trapped in. And Barcelona showed it again. Verstappen was not in control of the race. He was reacting to it. That is a massive difference. The Verstappen people are used to seeing is the driver who forces everyone else to react. He sets the tempo. He puts rivals under pressure. He makes the strategy wall nervous. He makes other teams choose between defending too early or losing too much time. In Barcelona, that power was gone. Hamilton had the race-winning strategy. Russell had track position early. Norris had enough pace to reach the podium. Verstappen was stuck trying to make a difficult car behave while the victory fight moved away from him. That is not just frustrating. It is damaging to the way Red Bull are seen. Because Formula One is psychological. Teams do not just race lap times. They race belief. They race reputation. They race the fear they create in everyone else. For years, Red Bull's reputation was simple. If Verstappen was anywhere near the front, he was dangerous. Now, after Barcelona, rivals can look at Red Bull and think something completely different. They can think, the car is beatable. They can think, the tires will go away. They can think, the start may be weak. They can think, the energy deployment may not be clean. They can think, if we put pressure on them, they may not have an answer. That is a terrifying shift for a team built on dominance. And it is not happening in one area. It is happening everywhere. The Red Bull 22 car has been struggling with the demands of the new hybrid era. The electrical part of the power unit now plays a much larger role than before, and that means the team has to manage energy almost like a second race happening inside the first one. The driver is racing the cars around him. The engineers are racing the battery, the cooling, the deployment, and the recovery. And if that internal race is not under control, the external race becomes almost impossible to win. That is why Verstappen's earlier complaints about boost and deployment matter. Those were not just angry words from a frustrated driver. They were clues. He was telling Red Bull that the power was not arriving the way he needed it. And when a driver cannot predict how the power will arrive, every attack becomes harder.